A lot of pieces to this next part. We want to get the bed set up at the bottom here, and that means we got to put the bar through. We got to get these clamps on that bar. We got to put this down to hold the bed. We got to use this to tension the belt. It's a lot of steps. So we're going to just get started with some of the simple pieces first. We're going to feed this bar through. Now what's going to happen is, depending on how much you tighten this down, you might find some resistance going into the second of the two bearings back here. So if it feels a little snug, what you're going to do is you're just going to grab your Allen wrench that you used to tighten down those screws. You're going to back them off just a little bit, and then you're going to wiggle the bar a little bit to give it kind of a new home, and then you're going to tighten these back up. So see how I just kind of did a little bit, backing it off just a tiny bit, okay? And granted, it varies. You might not need to do this, but you back it off a little bit, you feel the difference in how well it smoothly slides. Snug it just a tiny bit back so that everything's going to stay in place. Make sure that you kept that smoother glide, and you're ready to go. So with that in place, try to get my wires out of the way so this sits flat. There we go. With that in place, my next step is to attach these clamps. Now, the one on the left, this one here, has a little extension here that actually has an opening. Probably could put a screw there to help hit the end stop switch. That's going to be on your left side. This one's going to be on your right hand side. This one has the slots here that go for mounting the belt tensioner. That's this little guy. He's going to go on the right hand side. Now, these pop onto here. But before I do that, and this might be something that saves you time, might not, depending on how much you want to flip everything upside down all the time, go ahead and start the screws for the, see how this is going to pinch onto that bar end? It's a 20mm M3, and get them fed through. They're not going to be pinching the plastic. They're just going to go through here. And get them started so that when you do put it on the bar, you're not going to spend all your time just trying to get this screw through. So do that for both pieces. So here you can see that I finished doing the little bit of preparation to get this screw through this opening so that when I pop it on the bar, I'm not going to spend all my time just trying to get this screw started. You could even go ahead and add your hex nut on the end of it just to get it started. You're not actually tightening it down on the bar yet. And if you are having trouble getting the bar in there, you might have to take this screw out and not do this little extra starter step here. But if you have the wiggle room and you can get this on there beforehand, it'll save you a little trouble flipping the bot all around just to get a screw in there. So alright, let's go ahead and slide these on. Now the orientation here, that hex nut that is put on here, or if you want to refer to the front of the screw, okay, hex nut's in the back, head of the screw's in the front. The one on the left has the little foot there. The one on the right does not, has two holes for the belt tensioner. Alright, and mine slid right in, so I didn't have any problems there. If yours do not slide right in, then you might need to worry about not putting that screw in place until you're a little further along. Now I don't want to go too far on this yet. I'm just going to just tighten it. Not really even to get it to pinch yet, because I don't want these at the wrong angle to put the bed across. So I'm just getting them firm, but they still can be hand moved, to be at different angles, right? So that's going to be one of the tricky parts here, is that once you drop the bed in here, it's going to kind of line everything up. Now I'm going to get the bed on first before I do the belt. It just makes more sense to do the bed while I have a little bit more flexibility. All right, so here, I've placed the bed in. You can see I've got the right width. Now this is a little bit of a trickier step because we're now feeding the screw through this clamp, and we need to send that screw. You want to make sure you line this up so that the holes are going to line up here, and you're sending that screw through and catching it on the other side with a hex nut, and that's going to be just a regular 16mm screw. So easy thing to do is to start it on the top before you worry about trying to line it up to the hole below. Just get a little bit through here. These are going to go to a hex nut on the other side, so if they don't take much work to force them through, that's totally fine. I find that this top piece is a little more snug. This part here, it almost wants to just push straight through. So got that. I'm going to just line this up. And then once you're actually through here, you're going to have to flip this upright to get to the spot where the hex nut's going to go. I flipped this upright to show you that your hex nut's going to go right down here. And you're not going to really want to tighten this in until you get both sides set up. Just go ahead and get the nut started, and then switch over to the other side and do the same on the other side. and only once they're both set up are you going to tighten this down. Here I have both ends screwed in place, so I have a screw on top here, and underneath. And by the way, this will actually arc a little bit. You can get this to kind of pivot here. Got my 2 hex nuts underneath. Now I haven't tightened all this down to firm it up, but I'm going to need to do that at this point. So what I have are 2 screws here to tighten up to get it to pinch onto this bar. And I have these 2 screws to tighten up so it holds its bed nice and firm. So all you're doing is you're going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4 and just tighten these all up so that they're nice and snug. This should all be square at this point. All these pieces are going to help square this up, that this bed is going to keep these 2 at the same amount of rotation on the bar. And then when you tighten this on there, it's all going to be nice and snug. And then we can run our belt. So just go through those 4 screws and get them all snug. When these are all snugged up, you'll notice that there's a lot sticking through past the nut here. The same is kind of true on the bottom, but not as much. This can be tricky if this plastic here is actually like gripping the screw, because you might feel like it's snug, but there's still a pocket of air here. Just hold that nut in place if it's spinning. This one has a little stopper, this one doesn't. And just keep turning that screw. It'll eventually get a nice smooth movement through the plastic, because it's really only needing to thread on this nut. And it's going to come down and eventually pinch that bed. So with this pinched, everything's very rigid. There's no rotation. Like I can't spin this one clockwise and this one counterclockwise. They're square. Actually, it's a good time now to check that this still moves smoothly. So it does. And pretty much now that I've got this all set up, I'm ready to go ahead and start feeding through the belt to do the pulley itself. So at this point, we need to feed the belt through this opening. We want the belt to go down this gap here and come out this side, and down this gap here and come out this side. So it's going to hug the pulley, and then it's going to anchor off to these 2 ends, the clamps basically, right? And whenever you go to feed this through, you want the teeth to face the pulley. And it can be kind of annoying to try to get it to go through and come out the right side. Like if I just keep pushing this, or I got lucky and it came out there, sometimes it comes out this other side. If it comes out the wrong side, or if you have one that you just can't get to come through, sometimes all you need to do is just take an Allen wrench and help guide it a little bit, because there's usually a little, a little bit of room to, kind of help force it through. So if you're stuck, like this side just really doesn't want to go, out the right side, you might just have to push it a little bit with an Allen wrench, because you can't really get your fingers down in there. And so, well, I'm pushing it, but guess what? It's going out there we go. It popped over to the other side. There we go. All right. So just whatever it takes to get it through there, you're wrapping the pulley and feeding it out both sides. So you can see I got plenty of slack in either direction. Now I got to anchor it to these sides. We're actually going to start with what is the left-hand side. I know I've rotated it over to my right just so I have space on the camera, but it is the left side clamp. You're going to feed this through that slit, that opening there, and you really don't need to feed through a lot of it, but it is a very small opening, and you really don't want to widen it. Like you might be thinking to yourself, like, oh, I'm really fighting to get this through here. Maybe I'll just take an X-Acto knife or a drill bit and widen it up. Don't do that. You want this to be snug. So feed through a decent bit of slack, not a lot, but enough that you can loop it back on itself and feed it back through. So I might have a little more than I meant to here. I'm going to just pull some of my excess. Now I've looped it back, squeeze it tight, get the teeth inside of the opposing side's teeth so that it's as flat as possible. And then you're going to wiggle it back into that slot. Now you might, like me, have it slip a couple times, but stick with it. You can hear I'm really kind of struggling with it, but it's very snug opening, and that's okay. You want this to be tight. There. See how it came through the other side? It's tough to see. Give me a second here. I'll force a little more through. It is there. The other side of it is there. And I don't want to go too far. I just want to be able to show you that the folded back part came through. Now what you're going to do is you need to leave yourself enough of a loop here. You're going to feed through that little chunk of filament into the loop. So see how the filament's sitting in that loop? And then you're going to pull this through till it's basically that filament is what's keeping the whole thing from coming back through that slot. That's why it has to be so snug. So get this pulled all the way through. because you don't want to be tightening away that slack when you go to tension the belt. So you might need a set of pliers. I'm pretty good by hand, but I think even I might want to snug mine up a little bit with a set of pliers. Don't pull too hard all at once. Be gradual. You don't want to rip the belt. But anyways, that's anchored now on that side. The other side is much easier to anchor. We use a belt tensioner. So before we mount the belt tensioner, let's take a look at how it works. It has these grooves for hex nuts to sit in, and you're going to bring in screws from the opposite side that are going to then feed into these hex nuts, and they're going to pull this belt taut. So these are going to fall out as soon as I go to do something with it, but one of them stayed in, so I'll leave the one that's sort of stuck in there because it's not going to bother me. But anyways, you have to do the same thing again on this side. Okay, they both came out. But anyways, feed this loop or feed the belt through. You're going to loop it back much like how you did before. But before we worry about where to loop it back, how much slack to give it, let's go ahead and get an idea about where we're going to anchor it. So these screws are going to go through these two openings here. These are 20 millimeter screws, and you do need a nice long screw for this so that you have room to tighten things up. But anyways, put both of these through. Now that I have both screws all the way through, I want to point out that if it felt like the screw was gripping the plastic, you really don't want that. You want them to still be able to spin even whenever they're all the way at the end. So if you feel like it doesn't want to spin, it's kind of snugged up, you're going to have to just take your Allen wrench, get a little more leverage on it. And this was one that I didn't do this yet on, is you're just going to hold everything in place, and you're going to crank this till it does spin freely. Because you don't want the head of the screw way out here and not being able or not being able to turn it because it's gripping the plastic. You want this area where the screw's going through to basically let that screw turn freely, because it's these hex nuts that are really what's going to make the difference of what you're going to tighten into. So I previously had my belt tensioner on this belt already. Now this is tricky because you might be thinking, oh, I'll move the belt tensioner to where the screws are, I'll loop this back and feed this through. That actually does not work because then you're going to gain this much distance. You need to put the bend in the loop at where the screws are. So you're going to take this, you're going to pull this tight, and you want to put the bend just a little bit past the screws themselves. So it's going to take a couple tries before you get the perfect length. But let me just give you the instructions on how you're going to punch this through, and then you'll be able to go ahead and do that. So first off, if you have a lot of excess like me, you probably want to clip it free because this is just way too much for me to actually functionally work with. So I'm going to just trim off a decent chunk of it, and I'm going to try again here. All right, so there's my tensioner. Now I'm not going to get this right because I just kind of lost my line up on this, but I'm just going to show you that you're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to take both halves, you're going to pinch them together nice and tight, and you're going to feed it back through that slit. And once you're back through that slit, see how you have the other side coming through here? You're going to pull this all the way over, and again, you're going to use a chunk of filament, and you're going to pull this tight with that filament inside of this bubble. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually size mine correctly because it's a good likelihood that whenever I got a little too much distance now. So let me fix that, but you get the idea that you're going to have the filament poking through here, just like you had on the other side, and then we'll get ready to mount it with these screws. Now that I have mine fully pulled through here, and you can see that filament doesn't need to stick out much, just enough to help it block this getting pulled back in to the slit here. So anyways, I did have to use pliers to kind of gently snug that up there, but you're going to punch in your hex nuts here, and they will fall out. It just is the way that goes. So you're going to have to possibly place them a couple times. But get them both in there. Hopefully you give yourself enough of a reach to hit these two screws, and you're going to just tighten them into those hex nuts, and it's going to pull this belt taut. As you tighten it, try to make sure that you keep it pretty much an even distance here on top and bottom. You don't want to have this at a slant. It'll make it difficult to adjust it later. Now, once it's tightened, you'll feel that this is pretty snug here. You don't want to go so tight that this is going to make it difficult for... if you over tighten, you might find that this doesn't slide very smoothly. So make sure that you didn't lose your good slide here. Now, I do have a lot of excess underneath here for my belt. It's blocking the movement. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a set of wire cutters and kind of trim this out of here. Watch that you don't trim the good part. Just get the part you need to get rid of. And now I'm all set. And again, you want to make sure that this nice, smooth movement is maintained. If you over tighten that belt, or if it's really loose, you might feel like it's kind of staggering as it's moving. So once you've got that belt tensioner in place and you've got everything nice and snug, it's your chance to go through if you felt like anything was still not fully tightened. Check everything over and make sure that this is nice and smooth. Now this does still lift up. There's a little bit of play with that there. That's why that little bar underneath here holds this flat. So when it's printing, nothing's going to pull this upward when it's printing. But it is nice and reliable movement like this. So you pretty much got the bed installed and everything done with the x-axis. So you're ready to move on to the next part.